I don't know whether you are asking the same question I have been asking all day. Why am I here? So, those of you who know CERN, we are a basic research laboratory here in Geneva. And the type of questions that we ask are like, why are we here? Why is the universe here? So it might sound to you as being a bit strange why I'm making this resume of today's program, which I thought was really entertaining and very informative. Now, I know nothing about luxury business, nix, all right? And when Alex asked me to give the summary, I did tell him this. And he thought that was wonderful. So how can you refuse a request from a friend? We work very closely with CREA Genève and with their students. Several pointers were made to the millennials. These are the type of people we work with. I'm very pleased to work with them. Would have liked to see more of them today, in particular when a lot of good discussions took place about what the future brings to us. Anyway, during the day I've been jotting notes to answer the question, why am I here? Why are we here? And what possibly could make it relevant that I'm making these comments today. So I thought of 4 points which I would like to share with you as a summary based on all the presentations that have been made today. It appears that the luxury business, broadly speaking, and what we do at CERN, we are in niche markets, meaning limited markets. It's not 100% of the market, it may be a few percent. Certainly in the case of research and development, where we belong, it's less than 3% roughly of the GDP. And Xavier in the beginning made some interesting numbers. I tried to jot it up, like Rolex corresponds to 3 sinking Titanics a year. I guessed doing the quick math that, I'm not sure Rolex likes that, but I did a quick math, and it seems to me that the luxury business is also in a few percent, depending, of course, how you define it. We are artisans. We build special things. And it takes a lot of effort to do that. They are, based on what I've been hearing today, technically demanding and ambitious, linked to products or tools, including services. They engage lead users, and they set trends. And last and not least, which is the theme of today's workshop, we are facing disruption, and we are worried what tomorrow brings for us. So these are the 4 things that I thought I'd like to share with you. And just, how much time do I have, by the way?
It's at your feet. Look.
At my feet. At my feet.
Okay.
At my feet. Oh, there. 16 seconds. Okay, I have to speed up. All right. So I did make notes of all the presentations. So if I have 16 minutes, then I'm going to be fine. So let's start with Xavier. Wonderful. I do like when a mathematician and a physicist ends a luxury brand workshop. That's really great. I'd like to see more of that. Anyway, Xavier set the scene very well, and he had these 10 challenges, défis as he called them. And one that really caught my attention is, in English translation, characteristics of luxury. I think he was using les marqueurs or something like that. That was the word he was using, which basically meant no more fatty guys with cigars. That's no longer the branding of luxury. I thought that was interesting. And then Gilles produced 5 trends, and he was talking about the move from weak signals to the future and what we will have in a few years' time. And he mentioned, I noticed experiential luxury. That was a great word and actually resonated with me. And he also spent a lot of time on data. Data matters. He showed some very specific data and pointed out quite correctly that when we are dealing with data, there's a lot of bias. Now, we at CERN know a little bit about data. We work with big data, and I can assure you that this data is everything. The quality of what we are trying to see depends on the quality of the data that we collect and, of course, how we treat it. So this is all absolutely correct. And more data you need, to get to granularity. So the more specific conclusions or analyses you need to make, the more data you need. Of course, if you are dealing with a lot of statistics, then you tend to usually get, in particular when we are talking about human behavior, you tend to see the generalities. And I think at the end, Patrick made a very good point of that when he talked about digital disruption. And he talked about big data and small data, dividing those two. Big, what is happening, and small, why is it happening? I think that was a very good point. All right. His point was that, Gilles' point was that trends change rapidly. So I'd like to ask the following question. This is the question came to my mind. I'd like to share this with you for tonight. That when we have these fast trends and there is this very dynamic data that will shift customer preferences and, of course, in the luxury brand as well, the question is this: how fast is your business cycle? Is it weeks? Is it months? Is it years? Because if it's decades, then maybe you don't need to worry so much. In our business, our life cycles are long. The LHC, the Large Hadron Collider that we run today, its design started already in the early 1980s. We've been running it now for 8 years, and we plan to run it for the next good 15 years or so. Coralie gave a very nice overview from BRICS to MINTS, and by MINTS she referred to Mexico, Indonesia, Nigeria, and Turkey. Now, I got a bit lost with the slides, but the basic message is that there's plenty of growth, which was a bit surprising to me. I would have expected those luxury markets to be rather stable. We at CERN work very closely with people from these countries and others, and I was quite delighted to see also, of course, well knowing quite a lot of, let's say, transitions or shifts in those countries, politically and economically. So the question I would like to ask and share with you is that, are there new behavioral trends in these countries that so far have gone up unobserved by you? Why would you need to pay attention to these countries specifically? Then we had the roundtable discussion led by Christina. This was a very inspiring and very lively discussion about disruptive market, and there was, what is meant by disruptive markets. So a little thought was put on that. Perhaps the markets don't fundamentally change. There was discussion about what enables this disruption, referring to whatever disruptive means is what happens next, the next phase, something new, a rapid increase, unique, exclusive, it should be personal. There were examples given of these, going back to what Xavier was talking about, the marqueur on the luxury products all the way from Africa to Middle East, and comments were made that the populations are very different and maybe one should focus on ethnic groups rather than specific countries. And that we need to also take into account in all of this the level of basic infrastructure available. This is very different from different countries. Significant growth depends, of course, on the economy. And diverse was the word that I heard a few times. So the question I'd like to ask and share with you is that how much does or will physical presence still matter? This word I'd never heard before, phygital, appeared, which was no longer mentioned. It was one of the conveners, I think. Phygital, this is fantastic. I'll have to remember that. All right, after that, Marie-Emmanuelle gave a very beautiful case of using Beaumet as the case, sorry. And what struck me is that what really is behind products, philosophy of company like that, is the ambition, the inspiration. You may remember, what did she say? They want to contribute to the best planet for tomorrow. Now that's wonderful. This is a type of stuff that we at CERN love. Of course, we are trying to understand, we want to understand the best universe for ourselves, but roughly speaking, if you don't worry about the scale, it's roughly about the same thing, that actually we are looking ahead. So the question is, she was mentioning about personalized products. She was mentioning the importance of the customer experience. She was pushing or emphasizing the importance of pursuing for quality and value She made a comment about moving away from the Swiss made. That was discussed also a little bit later. And she mentioned about manufacturing on demand and the collaborative approach. This is also very close to what we do. We work in large collaborations. And the fact that she pointed that out, I thought was very interesting, referring to ecosystems that are being built. And she finalized by saying something really cute, I found. She said, devote to what you want to do best. Devote to what you want to do best. I thought that was very good. So my question to you, question to all of us, is, as a business model, what are your ambitions? Do you sell time, watches, or do you buy time by preserving our planet? This question about disruptive that came up through the morning and afternoon, I'll come back to that maybe a little bit later, but for us this is a key point here at CERN. What do we mean by disruptive? So I'll come back to that rather later because James had a nice panel on that, so let me save my comments to that. So then we have Beat, and he gave a very nice talk about how ideas get challenged. And he mentioned about his company, low-key, direct sales, unique distribution channel, no target market, focuses on simplified functions, therefore components. This was interesting, reducing the number of components by order of magnitude, I understood. And putting emphasis on competence-driven production, and coming to the point that innovation, in this context, in watch industry, refers to things like components from outside markets, the way the products are integrated, put together, the uniqueness that this methodology offers for the customer, and the way the product is put together, and collaboration with outsiders. Remember, second time, this question of collaboration with outsiders came very strongly up. And then about internet, what opportunities it offers. It does offer opportunities also for small companies. And then the key thing was around he really focused around the inventor. Everything goes around the inventor. The company's there for the inventor. The trends are set by the inventor. So my question is, who is your key asset? I was asking this question myself. At CERN, I could not identify one person that whole 15,000 scientist, engineer, student community is working on. So in our organization, this question will not work, but in a small organization, certainly. Anyway, who does influence what you do in your company? That's the question that came to me. Then there was this discussion led by James, a roundtable discussion about disruption. And there were, again, the same themes came up. What is disruptions? Well, it's a change, something more exciting. There was one, shake things up. I love that. New products, services needed, internet, online booking, social media, external factors, internal factors, differentiation, uniqueness. These were the kind of words that came up. We need to reinvent ourselves. We need to establish new collaboration with people that we like to work with, that are fun to work with, exciting for us, new connections, and follow your own instincts. That was quite nice. That was also linked a little bit what Beat was talking about, although different words. Then there was a little focus on what sort of technologies are considered as disruptive, so I wrote them: artificial intelligence, virtual reality, augmented reality, VTOLs, unmanned planes, areas where legislation is not yet there. That's an interesting point. So technology opportunities, business opportunities, seem to thrive in areas where the legislation is not quite yet there. Once it's there, then the business is determined usually by that if you follow the law, which of course we all should. There was about unhappiness, or let's say anxiety, about what is meant by digital looks. It sounds strange. Digital is the vehicle, it's not the mean. And it's unlikely that, that this business, your business, will go 100% digital anytime soon. Then there was something I really loved, which was about the millennials, the young guys, forward-looking, clever, early adopters, don't wear a watch, very knowledgeable about the products, and correctly, as pointed out, our future customers. These are very important. Now, this is one of the reasons I'm here, because we collaborate with CREA Genève, and we work with these millennials on a regular basis, and I already mentioned how refreshing that is. So if you want to know what your business looks like in 10 years' time, talk to these kids, less than 23 years old. It's very rewarding, believe me. It's frustrating at times, but also rewarding. Okay. The group gave some advice. One was that buy now from Massimo. That's what I took. Go to basics, fundamentals, and keep an open mind. So my question to you is the following. Have you spoken to a millennia guy recently? Do you know what she looks like? I would advise you to do that. Then we moved to data. Jonathan and Pierre gave a nice presentation. Their focus was make sure you have a data strategy. They used China as an example. So my question is, what is the data that we need? And how much of it do we need? How much can we process it? I have been asked several times questions, oh, you guys at CERN produce so much data. How can we produce data? I don't think that's the right question. I mean, the amount of data that we produce is, if you put it on DVDs, it will fit from Chamonix all the way to Aiguille de Midi every year. Now, that's the easy part, but then we have to do something with it. And this is what people usually forget. What do you do with the data? So my advice, personal advice, is that keep careful plan and track of what data you want to collect. Then we had Patrick. There was a wonderful presentation about digital disruption. And what he was saying, what he basically meant by disruption is, well, do and fail. Experiment. So we need more than data analysis. He was rather nasty. I think he pulled it into some sort of a thought experiment, but he was basically suggesting, that's how I took it, that we might be selling products to irrational people in markets that we don't even understand. That was very naughty, I think, wasn't it? And so he was kind of asking whether strategies really work, even if everyone in a company appears to be a strategist. And who then is left to implement the strategy? A good question, by the way. So he instead suggests that we start with opportunities and then competing strategies, so parallel strategies, interesting point. And then we validate by real experimentations. So my question, then he said, fake it until you make it. I'm not quite sure I like that, but we certainly understood the point, and it was an interesting, it certainly goes down in the US today. That was very bad. All right, the question I'd like to ask collectively is this. What would a meaningful business model experiment look like in your environment? So that's what I would like to ask you to think. Then the last presentation was a very dynamic, inspiring portrait of technology opportunities offered by Monica and Gilles, led by Pierre. And you heard about connected world, all the sensors that we have, and the way to collect the data, and a lot of examples in our daily environments about behavioral monitoring and customer improvements and tailored offerings and self-driving cars, accident, collision prevention, and the shift of calculation to the local devices from the cloud. This is an important point, and this is going to, I think, personally revolutionize a lot of things. A lot about machine learning and even the blue brain, which is a very ambitious project to simulate the human brain and what that would bring to improved user experience. So my question, there was also in the public, there were worries about privacy concerns, which were then discussed and addressed. So my question, triggered by this, is that which of the presented possibilities do you believe risks to disrupt your own current business? So this concludes the summary that I jotted as we spoke. Didn't have time to rehearse. I'd like to thank you. I'd like to thank the organizers. I thought it was a very interesting day. It certainly was very informative to me. I hope you found it useful, and I would like to wish you a very, very nice continuation of the day. Thank you. Merci beaucoup, monsieur.
Markus, thank you very much. So are we celebrating the 30 years of the web invention next year?
Yes.
Tim is coming back to Geneva?
Yes.
Okay. I hosted the 20 years.
Really? Okay.
I hope.
I think it's in February.
I hope Mr. Gillis remembers, still has my phone number. If not, tell him.
I will tell him.
I'm happy to host the 30 years.
I will tell him. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup, Markus Nordberg.